Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Today we're going to be doing something I haven't done in a long time. We're going to be teaching you how to play a deck. Now, and before I even get into this, I want to talk about how I was this close to actually playing Cosmos or giving you guys the Cosmos series. Everyone's like, oh, Cosmos best deck 2K, and I'm like, while I do agree that Cosmos probably is the best deck inside of Clash of Rebellions, I feel like Aromages are a deck that has been heavily overlooked. For the person that has loved to play an anti-meta-esque type decks, Aromages are the prime example, and oh my god, they're blanked. I can finally use my Super Lone Fire Blossoms for a good cause. Aromages effects are pretty decent actually, and when you look into it, they get even better. When you gain life points, their effects activate, and keep in mind that they're trigger effects. They can activate on both your and your opponent's turn. Also, while your life points are higher than your opponent's, you also get some other pretty neat effects. Now those effects are continuous. There's a lot of great ways that we can gain life points even on our opponent's turn and then be able to activate their effects, giving us advantage or rendering the opponent's cards useless. But let's get down to the Aromages themselves. With the monster lineup, there are 4 amazing Aromages. Well, 3 of them are amazing. The 4th one is... I have to actually sit down and read its effect. So we're going to start off with Aromage Bergamot. And Bergamot is a very interesting level 6 fire Aromage card. Now I apologize if I did butcher its name, but while your life points are higher than your opponent's, if it attacks a defense position monster, I believe it inflicts piercing. And if you do gain life points, this monster gains 1,000 attack. Now this card would have been amazing if it weren't level 6. I just feel that like level 6 is like, why? It's so hard to summon. It's like, I could Lone Fire into it, but more often than not, there probably are better cards. Now, don't get me wrong, this card is actually a very good monster to beat over cards like Cleave Towers and going over Cosmo Girl's infamous star speed runner thingy that's incredibly hard to get over. This card is probably the answer, but as far as anything else, yeah, her effects are lackluster to the other Aromage cards. Next on the list is Aromage Rosemary, respectable stats with 1800 attack, level 4, and a water plant monster. Now when your life points are higher than your opponent's, if one of your plant monsters attack, your opponent can't activate monster effects. So no honest, none of that, you know, great old crap you guys be running around with. Just none of those monsters effects either way. She is really, really underratedly good. Also, when you gain life points, you can target one face-up monster on the field and change its battle position. Now, one would think, like, why would you want to do that, Cali Effect? But once I start explaining the other Aromage monsters, you might want to do some battle switching, either on your side of the field or on your opponent's side of the field quite often. It's actually a really nifty effect when in a pinch and your opponent's summoning big beater monsters, and they just so happen to have a weak defense, because that's how Yu-Gi-Oh works. Aromage Rosemary is not necessarily the cornerstone, but it is your brute force outside of Bergamot. Now we're going to be talking about my second favorite Aromage monster, Aromage Kananga. I think I said it right. Now Aromage Kananga is not really much to look at, but he's nothing to scuff at. Kananga's effect is while your life points are higher than your opponent's, all of your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack. Now that's really good, especially when you have 3 stacked up on the field and you're like, yeah, nobody ain't getting past this. All my opponent's monsters lose 1,500 attack. That's even strong enough for Aromage Jasmine to run over. This card is really good, not only because its first effect, but its second effect is amazing as well. When you gain life points, you can target one spell or trap card in the field and return it to your opponent's hand. Now that is a pretty good effect when getting rid of your opponent's back row and swinging for tons amount of damage, or if you're just controlling the board like what Aromages do. Now let's discuss the star of the deck, Aromage Jasmine. Now Jasmine is extremely good. It's a reason why it's a secret rare inside of Clash of Rebellion set. When your life points are higher than your opponent's, you can gain the extra normal summon of a plant monster once returned, as long as it isn't Aromage Jasmine. Furthermore, every time you increase your life points, keep in mind this is during your opponent's turn and on your turn, you can draw 1 card. Aromage Jasmine is what every anti-meta deck would want. It's a constant continuous stream of hey, I get to play this archetype, and because I play this anti-meta build, I get to draw cards, replenishing my resources, and keeping me ahead of the game to beat down my opponent? This card's not that bad. Furthermore, Aromage Jasmine works out with some pretty cool locks. You can go Jasmine into Lone Fire Blossom, and Lone Fire Blossom can either make Kananga or it can make Rosemary. Two really good monsters that decrease the opponent's monster's attack and can switch battle positions of the opponent's monster while you make interactions, gaining life points on your opponent's turn. Jasmine is a really good combo piece to work with your other Aromage and your other plant monsters. For example, if you special summon Jasmine through Lone Fire Blossom in defense position, and then your life points are higher than your opponent's, you can special summon the infamous Cactus Bouncer, but that's a card we're going to talk about a little later. The next card I want to talk to you about is the last monster that we have revealed as support, Aromages. It is a flip effect level 1 rock monster, and while it's flipped face up during every player's end phase, as long as it remains face up, you can draw 1 card. Furthermore, Aromages cannot be destroyed by battle. Now, a lot of people on paper think that this card is bad, and I'm going to tell you right now, the card is bad. Don't play it. It's, yeah, just don't play it. I mean, just don't play it. Next, for spell and trap support, we have Aroma Garden, the centerpiece of the Aromage deck, and it does so many great things to allow us to play Yu-Gi-Oh! The first thing that Aroma Garden does is if we control an Aromage monster, we can gain 500 life points. That's critical for triggering all of our Aromage effects. The next thing that Aroma Garden does is if a plant monster, I believe it's if a plant monster is destroyed, you get to gain 1,000 life points. Now, people are like, TheCaliEffect, that doesn't sound too great. When you start playing this deck, you'll start to realize that gaining life points on your opponent's turn, even if you are behind, is critical to activating your Aromage monster's effects, which will thus give you advantage and turn the tide of your game. The next card I'm going to talk about is Humid Wind, my favorite Aromage card, because when you first look at it, it's like, but then when you play it, it becomes even better. Humid Wind's effect is you can pay 1,000 life points to add 1 Aromage monster from your deck to your hand. Furthermore, if your life points are lower than your opponent's, you can gain 500 life points. Now, there are so many ways to abuse this card to put your life points lower than your opponent's and then gain life points to trigger all of your effects and still be ahead of your opponent to gain all your Aromage monsters effects. This card, I want to say, is the centerpiece of the Aromage spell and trap cards, right behind Aroma Garden. The next card I want to talk about is Dried Winds. And when looking at Dried Winds, I didn't have much hope for the card. When you control an Aromage monster and you gain life points, you can target 1 monster on your opponent's side of the field and destroy it. If you have up to 3,000 more life points to your opponent, you can pay that difference to destroy monsters on your opponent's side of the field up to the amount of life points you have paid. Now, Dried Winds doesn't seem like that most amazing card in the world, but I've actually got its effect off quite a few times, and it's interesting that why am I gaining all these life points and then just slam your opponent for game? So hey, it is what it is, you get what you give. Now to the off-theme support. Most people hit me up with Aromage, be like, yeah, Cali, what you got for that off-theme support? And I'll be like, I got you, bros. So for off-theme support, we're gonna hit you with the Jiraiya. I don't know how to say this card's name. This card is decent nonetheless. During either player's battle step, you can special summon it and gain 1,000 life points. Furthermore, he can tribute himself to target a monster you control and make it gain attack. Now, that's not that bad of an effect. Another card that we can run is Poison of the Old Man. Now, Poison of the Old Man is just, I don't know. Personally, I feel it's like 50 times better than Jiraiya, mainly because it's a spell card and it does the exact same thing and it doesn't rely on battle. But we'll get into that way later. What Poison of the Old Man does is that you can inflict 800 damage to your opponent, or you can gain 1,200 life points, and that just might be pretty good for activating your effects. Another great plant card would be Lone Fire Blossom, because all of your monsters are plants. Tributing Lone Fire Blossom to special summon an Aromage. No, do not special summon another Lone Fire Blossom. Special summon an Aromage to your side of the field and then start abusing your effects. Cactus Bouncer is also really good. It's almost like a walking Vanity's Emptiness. You can special summon it, but while it's on the field with another plant monster, neither player can special summon it. And since this deck is a little slow on summoning a whole bunch of monsters, slowing your opponent down as well would be pretty critical. This deck is so good it can run cards like Lose One Turn. And we know what Lose One Turn did for Cleaford, so why can't it do the exact same thing for Aromages? You can even get pretty nasty with this card, with this deck. You can run Mirror Forces, Fiendish Chains, Breakthrough Skills, Mind Crushes. I'm already thinking of ways to disrupt the opponent. Ultimately, there is a lot of routes, some that I didn't even mention that you can play with Aromages. This is what you would call a starter pack on the cards that the Cali Effect would play. I can't wait to see you guys on Wednesday where I will be playing Aromages as a deck. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.